We have been reading A Course in Miracles. We are on to chapter 16, The Forgiveness of Illusions. And today we are reading section 3, which is The Reward of Teaching. It's quite a challenging section, as you'll see, and we'll talk about it once we're finished. Here we go. We have already learned that everyone teaches and teaches all the time. You may have taught well, and yet you may not have learned how to accept the comfort of your teaching. If you will consider what you have taught and how alien it is to what you thought you knew, you will be compelled to realize that your teacher came from beyond your thought system. Therefore, he could look upon it fairly and perceive it was untrue. He must have done so from the basis of a very different thought system and one with nothing in common with yours. For certainly what he has taught and what you have taught through him have nothing in common with what you taught before he came. And the results have been to bring peace where there was pain, and suffering has disappeared to be replaced by joy. You may have taught freedom, but you have not learned how to be free. I said earlier, quote, "By their fruits ye shall know them, and they shall know themselves. For it is certain that you judge yourself according to your teaching." The ego's teaching produces immediate results because its decisions are immediately accepted as your choice. And this acceptance means that you are willing to judge yourself accordingly. Cause and effect are very clear in the ego's thought system because all your learning has been directed toward establishing the relationship between them. And would you not have faith in what you have so diligently taught yourself to believe? Yet remember how much care you have exerted in choosing its witnesses and in avoiding those which spoke for the cause of truth and its effects. Does not the fact that you have not learned what you have taught show you that you do not perceive the sonship as one? And does it not also show you that you do not regard yourself as one? For it is impossible to teach successfully wholly without conviction, and it is equally impossible that conviction be outside of you. You could never have taught freedom unless you did believe in it. And it must be that what you taught came from yourself. Yet this self you clearly do not know and do not recognize it even though it functions. What functions must be there. And it is only if you deny what it has done that you could possibly deny its presence. This is a course in how to know yourself. You have taught what you are, but have not let what you are teach you. You have been very careful to avoid the obvious and not to see the real cause and effect relationship that is perfectly apparent. Yet within you is everything you taught. What can it be that has not learned it? It must be this part that is really outside yourself, not by your own projection, but in truth. And it is this part that you have taken in that is not you. What you accept into your mind does not really change it. Illusions are but beliefs in what is not there. And the seeming conflict between truth and illusion can only be resolved by separating yourself from the illusion and not from truth. Your teaching has already done this, for the Holy Spirit is part of you. Created by God, he left neither God nor his creation. He is both God and you are God and him together. For God's answer to the separation added more to you than you tried to take away. He protected both your creations and you together, keeping one with you what you would exclude. And they will take the place of what you took in to replace them. They are quite real as part of the self you do not know. They communicate to you through the Holy Spirit, and their power and gratitude to you for their creation they offer gladly to your teaching of yourself, who is their home. You who are host to God are also host to them, for nothing real has ever left the mind of its creator, and what is not real was never there. You are not two selves in conflict. What is beyond God? If you who hold him and whom he holds are the universe, all else must be outside where nothing is. You have taught this, and from far off in the universe, yet not beyond yourself, the witnesses to your teaching have gathered to help you learn. Their gratitude has joined with yours and God's to strengthen your faith in what you taught. For what you taught is true. Alone you stand outside your teaching and apart from it. But with them you must learn that you but taught yourself and learned from the conviction you shared with them. This year you will begin to learn and make learning commensurate with teaching. You have chosen this by your own willingness to teach. Though you seem to suffer for it, the joy of teaching will yet be yours. For the joy of teaching is in the learner who offers it to the teacher in gratitude and shares it with him. As you learn, your gratitude to yourself, who teaches you what he is, will grow and help you honor him. And you will learn his power and strength and purity and love him as his Father does. His kingdom has no limits and no end, and there is nothing in him that is not perfect and eternal. All this is you, and nothing outside of this is you. To your most holy self all praise is due for what you are, and for what he is who created you as you are. Sooner or later must everyone bridge the gap he imagines exists between his selves. Each one builds this bridge, which carries him across the gap as soon as he is willing to expend some little effort on behalf of bridging it. His little efforts are powerfully supplemented by the strength of heaven and by the united will of all who make heaven what it is, being joined within it. And so the one who would cross over is literally transported there. Your bridge is builded stronger than you think, and your foot is planted firmly on it. Have no fear that the attraction of those who stand on the other side and wait for you will not draw you safely across, for you will come where you would be and where yourself awaits you. This is quite challenging. This particular, in a way, it's more of the same, but Jesus is definitely bringing in some new ideas here. For example, at the end there, he brings in the idea of bridging the gap between the two selves. But earlier than that, he said, you are not two selves in conflict. There's no conflict, really. The ego really is nothing. So there can be no conflict. We are still at home. You are still at home in God. You have never left. And then Jesus brings in the idea of the little willingness and the expending some little effort. And this is a running theme throughout the course. So all you need is that little willingness, and he says, once you take those steps in that direction, you will actually be literally, he says, transported there to where you need to go. Your bridge is built stronger than you think, and your foot is planted firmly on it. Have no fear that the attraction of those who stand on the other side and wait for you will not draw you safely across. Who is the they here? Jesus keeps talking about our creations, right? And God's creation and our creations. I believe Jesus sometimes says God's creations and our creations. Now, what are they, and are they something different? Are there multiple creations? Are there multiple things that God created, multiple things that we have created in heaven as the Son? We are the Son of God, remember, right? So is it just dualistic language that Jesus is using that to help us on this side of the veil to understand, just figures of speech that Jesus is using? Or, there are people in the ACIM world who would say, yeah, that's literally true, that there are creations of God, and there are multiple sons of God, and there's also creations of us in heaven, and those are what wait for us and help to attract us to back to our creations, right? This is why this is, there is a division. There are divisions, not just a division. There are divisions in the world of A Course in Miracles, just like every new spirituality or new religion, even though, let's just say that Helen was very clear, Helen Schuckman, the scribe. This message came through her. She did not put her name on it. And she said, I don't want this to become the basis of another cult. And this is a self-study course, meaning it's really not meant for people to build a church. That was not the original intention. Now people have done that, and there are course communities throughout the world, and that's not, no one is really, it's no one's place to judge that. If anything, the course is helping us to get beyond judgment. Would Helen have approved? Probably not. But you could say maybe that doesn't matter, whether she approved or not. Did she have the final word on all of this? Who is to say? It's out of her hands. She let it go. But we'll come back to that. The reward of teaching. Let's start from the beginning here. The reward of teaching. We've already learned that everyone teaches and teaches all the time. Okay, so Jesus has made this point many times throughout the course up to now, is that we're always teaching and we're always learning. What are we teaching and learning? We're only teaching and learning two things. One of two things all the time. It's either spirit, it's either love or fear, spirit or ego. Either you could say judgment or forgiveness. And you could talk about all the light and dark, or positivity or negativity. They're not all the same, obviously, but you could say we're always teaching love, which is by definition the absence of judgment, or we're teaching fear, which is based in the idea of separation, which is the ego thought system. So we're always teaching and learning one or two thought systems at all times. We're either teaching the Holy Spirit's thought system, which when we teach that, we learn, we all go home together. We all show the power of love. We all show and know the power of love when we teach that. And when we teach the ego's thought system, we learn the power of judgment and separation, and what that feels like. There's a great quote here: by their fruits you shall know them, and they shall know themselves. So by the fruits of whatever we teach, we the people that we teach, when we offer love, those who are witnesses to that, they learn love, and we learn from the effect that it has on them. We learn it as well, and it reinforces with us, and everyone goes higher, goes deeper into the love, right? And when we there's also misbegotten fruits of judgment and fear that we also teach sometimes, and we see those fruits, and we know the ego by those fruits. We know what the ego feels like, right? And we know what the difference is from witnessing that, being witness to that. We've already learned that everyone teaches and teaches all the time. You may have taught well, and yet you may not have learned how to accept the comfort of your teaching. If you will consider what you have taught and how alien is to what you thought you knew, you will be compelled to realize that your teacher, capital T here, came from beyond your thought system. The Holy Spirit is what is being referred to here. The Holy Spirit came from beyond your thought system. So the Holy Spirit really is the teacher, right? The Holy Spirit is God's voice, God's messenger. The Holy Spirit, it's the Holy Spirit's function to, the Holy Spirit can truly love and show what love is without, that it is beyond judgment. We are so conditioned to the ego that we find that alien to us. It's an alien thing. It's alien because it's so far beyond our thought system, which is the ego's thought system. Right now, the ego is very loud, and the Holy Spirit is that still small voice. It's very soft, but also more compelling than the ego ultimately. Therefore, he could look upon it fairly and perceive it was untrue. So what Jesus just saying here, something similar to what he said in the last chapter, which is the Holy Spirit, if you can teach freedom to your brother, that the Holy Spirit must be in you. That teacher is in you. And ultimately what we must learn is that is us. Not only is the Holy Spirit in us, but that is who we are. That we are that. You may have taught freedom, but you have not learned how to be free. The ego's teaching produces immediate results because its decisions are immediately accepted as your choice. And this acceptance means that you are willing to judge yourself accordingly, cause and effect. I think this means that being so conditioned to the ego's thought system, being so much, almost like we can talk in terms of like instinctual, or second nature, or biologically driven. That's why it's so difficult in a way. It seems almost impossible to undo the ego thought system because it's so deeply ingrained, and it feels like it's been millions of years, right? And Jesus is here to say, no, the reality is the ego's thought system is nothing, non-existent, or based in a complete lie. And it may seem very, very difficult, very, very challenging, very, very hard to undo. Yet, for the Holy Spirit, it can be like that. It doesn't have to be challenging. It doesn't have to be in terms of millions and billions of years. That doesn't matter at all, because the reality is what we are is what we truly are is much, much more powerful. And ultimately, it is the only reality, and the ego, which seems very real right now, is not real at all. I think you could boil this all down. I think I might have said this before. You could boil all this down to everything you think you know is wrong. Everything you think you know is wrong. And when you get to that point, when you see that, you'll know that everything that everything that follows the ego's thought system is totally upside down, totally wrong, totally a lie, makes no sense in the light of God. And that's why, this is, I read this quote today. I forget who said it, but I think it was actually, Meister Eckhart, the great German mystic, Christian mystic. He said, any God for whom I could have some concept or idea about is not a God I would want. Right? We really have no idea. We have no idea. But when we get there, we can experience that, we can realize that, even being still in our body, still in this world, we can realize that, we can see that, and that is available to us. In many ways, you could say that the Course is pointing to that experience of revelation, that experience, you might say, of the holy instant. So anyway, I'm going to stop there, and next section is the illusion and reality of love, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you so much for listening. Till next time.